Well, you never guess where I am now. It's time for another installment of an unofficial high-speed tour of a museum. And we have made it to France for some reason. Can't imagine what I'm doing here. Ignore the microphone on my lapel. Had an opportunity to quickly run through the museum earlier. Start off with a cut open Chaffee and what I presume is an AMX 10RC turret. They have a reasonable collection of working armor, although they only have 3 mechanics, so it's like they work the entire year just for the carousel. Get out of the way, people. And of course, it is the 100th anniversary of the first French tank battles, and both the Schneider and the Saumur are looking good. You can see the sides of the tracks on these. Oh, I like the doors. Serious amount of overhang. Wonderful shape. She is a runner, as is the Schneider. Aha! And look, the back's open. Now that is what you call a ball mount. That is basically the World War I hall. The largest, oddly enough, the largest hall in the entire building that I found is the German World War II. So we have our converted half track. Look at the suspension system there. It's almost a Horseman. It looks very reminiscent of the British ones. Hanomag truck. Of course, the one, the only working King Tiger, so Bovington, eat your heart out. Something I've never really understood. Goliath was a vehicle that was designed to self-destruct, yet every single museum seems to have one. So either they're very good fakes, or they weren't very good at their job. Schwimmwagen, and something much bigger than the Schwimmwagen, a triple wagon. Huh, okay. Oh, look, Panzer II, isn't he cute? It's a relatively early 3. Next to it is a relatively late 4. In fact, I would almost go as far as to say that's a J without looking at the front, just by the wire mesh Schutzen. And I have to admit, the Schutzen is a little bit... the mesh is wider than I expected it to be. Again, it was determined, the reason they went with this was they discovered that you could get the same protective effect whilst reducing the weight, because, you got so much air. But, I mean, I guess if you're shooting at it from an angle with a 14.5, you can, you'll ricochet off something, and of course heat rounds, bazooka rounds will have that effect. But it's rather hit or miss going straight from the front. Doesn't say what version. They do have a Tiger, it doesn't run, to my knowledge. And one of several Panthers they have around here. So they got this one in German marking, and they have another one across the way in French markings next to the Egg Panther. Half track with bridging. A Burger Panther, that's your armored recovery vehicle. apparently armed with a 20mm. That works. Sturmpanzer Fear, it says Brumbar on the front. Hilary Doyle has his own opinions on that matter. And everybody's favourite, I remember this used to be the Hummel assault gun of death in World of Tanks. You just go careening around the battlefield and just blast people with them. So a 4A with the long 75 and high superstructure, and then we got the much lower regular 4. A couple of Stews and Stugs. The Hetzer. I said Hetzer. At least it says Panzer 38T on it. And the Marder 3, also based off the 38T chassis. And of course, one of our captured conversions. As you can see, it says Hotchkiss in bright, shiny letters at the front. And has the triple bogies. So more Marders. And based off of another of the French vehicles, a Lorraine, I guess. And a Lynx. Hey, something that Werf's Nebels. A little AT gun collection back here. 88. So they have a reasonable collection of German armor. It's a hell of a winch. Comes off a Berg Panther. A Semovente and an M15. Now, I don't know how many M15s are hanging around, but there you go. They have one. The French World War II section. There's Saumur with Pride of Place. AMR 33, it was the Automitrailleuse de Reconnaissance. It was part of the cavalry units. This was a fascinating one. I did not recognize this when I walked around. I probably should have. The ACG-1 actually looks like a very competent tank for the era. It's a shame the French only had 17 of them. Note the two-man turret. My God, they understood the concept. There are actually rational reasons why they went with the one man, but that didn't make them any better in combat. Another automitrailleuse. So the cavalry, there's like the American armor. They weren't allowed to have tanks. So if it had tracks or if it had wheels, it was an AMR, AMC, what have you. Every time I see a person saying, oh, the T-34 brought in all-around sloped armor. So, yeah, the FCM 36 would like to have a word with you, please. Couple of French half-tracks. R35. And a Charbet 1. Nothing too amazing there that you wouldn't expect to find in the French section. So now we go into the Cold War. And immediately you get a Trabi. Didn't know they came in a convertible option. And one seriously cut up T-72. Obviously a training aid. So, 54. And again, it's not the fume extractor that is a giveaway. This one does have a fume extractor. It is also a 54. Witness the ventilator housing on the top. This is two BMP-1 and one of the ATGM versions of the BRDM-2. And one of the little belly wheels has fallen down. Any self-respecting museum has got to have a T-34 somewhere. I was wondering about the BTR-70. So they moved the door down low so that folks didn't have to get out the roof anymore, which is fantastic. Until you realize just how big this door actually isn't. Now, I'm told the way you got out of this thing is you basically did a forward roll. The thing would drive along at about 5 miles an hour. You do a forward roll, tumble out of it, and you'd be getting out like a stick of paratroopers. But a spigot on top of this one. At least I think it's a spigot. Something obscure and Yugoslavian. And I'm not entirely sure why this is in the Cold War section. From the long 57s. Right opposite it, we have reached the Allied section. With a dummy, I guess, Grant Lee. Nothing too astonishing here. Trying to keep guys out of my shot here. Another Comet. And there's great tanks for me to get stuck in. The mountlet in that Mark IV looks a bit dodgy. And a close support Centaur. That's a big difference being at the back on these. And sort of a longer tail than Comet. Different engine. Another Matilda in the Contour scheme. And a rare Crusader anti-air. I don't think I've seen one of these before. Sexton. Another Marmon Harrington. They show up from time to time. They have a KV-1, kind of. Couple of ferrets, humbers. I say ferret, it's a damn dingo. My bad. Staghound. Designed by Chrysler, not accepted by the US. It was tested. It went somewhere else. Of course, the Staghound was widely used by the Commonwealth. So we now move into a more modern section, starting with a French half-track from World War II and a duck. There's a photo of me on patrol in one of these things. My feet are on the ground, or not on the ground, they're on the base of the vehicle. I'd say my belt is more or less at the roof. I'm pretty much like this mannequin. And the rest of me was sticking at the top. Of course, you won't see Leclerc in too many musea. It's probably completely empty inside. Demounted 105. Or is it 120? Shell casing like that, probably 105. One of a couple of AMX 40s they have here. Obviously never was built. A 30 with the 20mm coax. Did not know Peugeot made Jeeps. Here, have a nuclear rocket. And the famous ARL 44. And they say it's based off of the Sharbee, and actually, if you discard the tracks, which have rollers now instead of skids, I mean, even the way you have the twin sprocket teeth that are in close together, which are behind the main armor body, this is not a small vehicle. And the only reason that the 50 doesn't look huge, is because it is sitting next to the 44. This is a very, very large tank. Interleave road wheels, of course, but I mean, look at the size of this engine deck. It is massive. Quite a party in that. 13 with missiles, 10 RC. This thing skid steers. So if you look, there's not any room for the wheels to turn. They're right hard up against the armor. This one, however, does steer the RC90, and of course the famous, if you're Irish, AML 90. I don't know if that's a Mephisto Vab or not. I think it's a Mephisto. This is hot. Is that the same thing? My memory eludes me. The EBR, the push me pull you, as fast backwards as forwards, with little metal wheels that will go up or down. And I never, for whatever reason, noticed the bow machine gun. However that was supposed to work. Hopefully it goes up or down, otherwise it's got no use whatsoever until you're running over somebody. It's a nasty Jeep. Jeep Delahaye. Ah, that's a ferret. M29C Crab. I guess crab is French for weasel. Is it? Or have I gone insane? It's a weasel, isn't it? That's the problem with doing these little walkarounds without doing some advanced reconnaissance. You're never entirely sure where you sit. Leclerc's command truck. And I guess this was his caisson after he died. EBR de Gaulle. Another T-34, why not? Zukov, Patton, Guderian, Monty. Oh, Monty just gets a universal carrier. And we have another Renault R39 this time. I'm still in two minds on this one because oftentimes when you have the long gun you'll call it a 39, but I'm not actually convinced that is the case and it's not just a convention. They mark it as a 39 here in the French Museum, mind, so now this is a flat engine. Because remember, it goes underneath the bottom of the EBR. Right underneath the bottom. And we go into the modern hall. Saladin. Mallorcas are getting bigger than I remember them. They do appear to have a Conqueror. Next to a Centurion. Next to a Berlin Brigade. Chieftain. and what appears to be one of the prototype S-tanks. Note the commander's hatch is entirely different. This is the winch that you use to open up the armor plates. They're just way too heavy to lift ordinarily, so you have to crank it up and hold it up in the middle. Cascavel from Brazil, no idea. Now here's something else you don't see very often in a Western museum, a Merkava. It's an early one with the 105. If you call it the lack of a loader's hatch on that Mark IV. They eventually put one in. That is a serious anti-slip coating. I'm told nobody's allowed to look inside. Let's see what stops you just getting a bolt driver big enough to open that up, but anyway. Mortar. Fired from the tank, note. And a 68 or 61, something like that. '61 in this case. 114. One of Cadillac's better disasters. Note how from the front the nose projects much further than the track, so if you go into a ditch you get stuck. Arguably a design flaw. I have a bunch of models up top. 47, 48, and a 60 A1. No, it's an A3, I'm sorry. Look at the muzzle, it's got a thermal shroud on the gun. So it's probably an A3. The children's area. They have a thing in the children's area. Whatever that is, which I probably should know, but I don't. And one of the YPRs from the Dutch. I can never remember what the YPR number is. It's like those Chinese things, they're all the same. 7 or something, I think. Lynx from Canada, next to it a Scorpion, CVRT, a Panzer Canon, Leopard 1, is that OF40? No, it's a Leopard. Hang on a second. It says it's a Leopard 2. That has got to be one of the seriously early prototypes, if it is. The gun looks too short to be 120, but I'm kind of wondering why this is in the French museum, because I thought the French-German collaboration was a different one. However, what can you say? PBV 301 from Sweden. Note the Jägerpanzer 38T chassis. And then you come back to the gift shop. So that's it, your lightning tour of Saumur. It's actually a very pretty town.